Getting to this Julia Slingo woman remark, this was a description of you by Nigel Lawson, Lord Lawson, former Chancellor of the Exchequer, which was reported in the Guardian newspaper. He was commenting on your absurd statements, those are his words, in which you suggested there was likely to be a link between climate change and the persistent heavy rain, storms and flooding that many of us in the UK experienced over the winter. The BBC reported you as saying, all the evidence suggests there is a link to climate change. Is that what you said, and do you stand by it?
That was taken out of context. What I actually talked about was the fact that, again, back to fundamental physics, if the air is warmer, it holds more water. So a weather system today will hold more water than the same weather system would have done 50 years ago. If it holds more water, and when it rains, it brings out that water, you'll get heavier rainfall. That is well understood. It's observed. It's hard to detect yet in our observations in the UK because we have such a volatile climate, but it's seen around the world. So all the evidence points to, as we go through global warming and for the warming we've already experienced, we are going to get more rainfall. I had some other points that are related to that, which are more nuanced, but those are the points I was making.
Weren't you running the risk of ascribing a single weather event to anthropogenic man-made climate change, which of course is something that no one can do?
I was talking about the weather over the winter, so it wasn't talking about one particular storm, because of course the weather will always do what the weather wants to do. But what climate change does is adds that little bit extra to each of those weather systems in some way or other. And so what we were actually talking about was, if you like, the extreme weather in the round that we saw this year. So if we go to the IPCC Working Group 2 report that was published last week, that is a message that comes through that report time and time again, that extremes are getting more extreme.
And just on Nigel Lawson's comments referring to you as this Julia Slingo woman, how did that affect you? How did that make you feel?
Actually, surprisingly, it didn't bother me, in the sense that it was just so unnecessary, so unpleasant, actually quite sexist. I thought it reflected more on him than on anything that I was doing. It almost, I think, was almost a reaction to the desperation of the situation he'd got himself into, in the sense that the science base and the evidence base now is so strong that resorting to personal abuse said as much about him as anything that I might or might not have done.